Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far with the off-season fast approaching and the World Championship just around the corner. Pred has given his thoughts on what his next step is going to be after the Seattle Surge, saying he's going to commit to a 3-year situation. What he does in this off-season will determine probably where he is for the next 3 seasons. Where does that mean he should go to, especially with the way that the teams he might want to target have been developing over the past couple of weeks. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Just quickly to mention, by the time you guys are watching this, I have hopefully landed safely in Toronto for the major, baby. Exciting stuff. Looking forward to meeting some of you all there and all that type of stuff. It was great fun in Boston just a couple of months ago. Let's dive straight into things then, right? Obviously, online qualifiers are now done and dusted. Thankfully, no more sound equalization. Couple of interesting stats to mention though for you guys as well. This coming out of IU Turtle. The lowest and the highest scored hills all time in Call of Duty League history. This is going back to the 2020 days, and often these are P1s, right in the middle of the map, often rather difficult to capture, but aBeZy actually has the lowest points per hill of all time. So this is average combined scored by both teams per rotation, and yeah, so P1 aBeZy only 24 points scored. That's by both teams per rotation, right? So it's difficult to get in there, and it's even more difficult to hold down time. We see Gunrunner P1, Bacage P1, Mikado P1 on this list as well, but aBeZy is definitely leading the lines. The other way though around is actually maybe even more interesting. The biggest, effectively, money hills, right, in COD history. This is the amount of those 60 seconds that get secured by someone or another, and there's no surprise to many that played Modern Warfare 2020. Hackney Yard P2 was the unbreakable hardpoint, 54.5 seconds. Even Raid's P3 though, right, over towards the garage, that got 49.8, up there with aBeZy P4 and also aBeZy P5. So funny in a way that aBeZy not only has the lowest points scored in that P1, but also a couple of its hills are on this list for the most. Even Mikado's up here as well. So you could argue somewhat unbalanced maps that Infinity would have created in this game. But then again, Raid is considered one of the best ever, and that has P3 and P4 over in the garage, and then the basketball hill are both very difficult to break into and kind of money hills, as it were. Let's talk about Rostermania then and how it's expected to go, because we saw the other day Scump, and I've probably mentioned it last night as you guys are watching this, talked about all the drama in the World Series of Warzone side, but Jake Hale says, can confirm this off-season is going to bang, i.e. there's going to be some really interesting changes coming shortly, and what could they potentially be? So Parasite actually gives some thoughts. I thought it was quite nice in a way. Scumman just saying like, look, he's a dumb kid, he's a good player, but people shouldn't go in on him as hard as they actually have been doing, but nonetheless they did have a little bit of beef just a short while ago. But speaking about CDL Rostermania, Jacob L says, look, salary and budget changes will be happening this season. That's what makes this season very interesting in a way, is that because the esports winter, esports recession, whatever you want to call it, is hitting at least some of these teams, some teams will be cutting budgets, there's no doubt about that, but some teams might think, you know what, we could capitalize here and sign big money players for big money. And this is well, the debate that Pred has in a second about whether he would take a, you know, pay cut to pay on a certain team. How do you weigh that super well between winning and also, you know, getting your pay at the end of the day? Because if you're only in the league for a few years, you want to cash in, it's understandable, but you also want to create a legacy. So that's a debate that Pred's currently having. But look, as Jacob L says, some orgs will come in and try and swoop in potentially for players and teams that might be making budget cuts. We saw even the rumours that last year Thieves made some budget cuts potentially, or they at least had to take a pay cut that roster. And if that happens again, especially with them all being free agents, you can understand if that team might potentially split up down the line. So this is how things are going though. Wanted to eye in on the Seattle Surge, because their season, given that they were a championship winning roster last year, they won an event at Major 3 in Toronto, they're 18-20 on the season, negative series count, negative map count, and as we saw earlier today, if anything, they are the more likely candidates to be eliminated from World Championship contention by Vegas, because if Vegas were to lose to FaZe, Vegas could then theoretically go on a run to top 4, knocking out Surge in the process, and that would be enough to get over Surge, right? Because Legion would hold the head-to-head against Surge in that situation, and that would result in Surge being out of the World Championship and Vegas being in if Vegas were to get top 4 and Surge were to get top 12, which is not out of the realms of possibility as it presently stands. These are the numbers on the season. Of course, Pred's individual stats have been substantial in all the modes, but I mean, look at their hardpoint record is 38-28, pretty good. Their control's pretty good as well, but that Surge 16-32. Pred has a 1.3. Pred explained in the interview in a second here with Nameless and Co. I haven't shared. I'll share a brief clip here, but if you guys want to check out the entire thing, he goes into detail about his search and destroy prep, how he's tried to level up his S&D game, and he's been phenomenal in that mode rate this year, 1.3. He's had so many maps where he's just put so many kills down. And you can talk about, okay, playing for kills, but in Surge, if there's one game mode where playing for kills is pretty important, Search and Destroy is that mode. But the rest of his team accuracy, Mack especially, have struggled there. That's where this whole debate around Gwyn has come from over the last couple of weeks, but doesn't seem like, as of recording, they're going to be doing anything. So Pred gives his thoughts on this really interesting episode of the podcast with Nameless and Study on what his future is going to be after the Seattle Surge, confirming undisputably that he is a free agent at the end of this year. He will be looking at offers elsewhere. He went on to say afterwards that he could go back to Surge if they gave him a very attractive offer and they do very well at the final couple of events of the season, but if that's not the case, then he's going to go elsewhere. He's looking for a 3-year commitment in a way, or at least he's looking on that type of horizon, and therefore that might well push him one way or another.
Obviously, you still got to focus on this year, but I just wanted to know, are you on like a 1+ or a 2+1, or like how's your contract? Like, where can you give that info out? Like, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, after this season, I'm gonna be a free agent. So
you're about to get the bag, brother.
So once this season finishes, I'm gonna be a free agent. So that means obviously I'll be able to go to whatever team, whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm FA. So yeah.
So what are your goals though? Like obviously you want to win. Would you like take pay cuts in order to get a dub, like, or like, you know, like what's your mentality when it comes to that?
Honestly, it depends. Like, it has to really depend. Obviously, winning is number one. I mean, I feel like winning and like the future. You want to make sure that because the decision I make is probably going to be for the next 3 years, right? I'm probably going to sign something like that. So for me, it's very important to make sure that I make the decision best for my future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, your life and your
exactly.
And your
like
status,
the next 3 years is important, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to make a wrong decision. I don't want to jump into something that I'm not fully confident in. So for me, I have to understand the surroundings and how everything is going to work, and I want to make sure that I make the best decision possible because, like I said, it's very important. I just want to be in a good support system where I know I can strive and where my team can win. I want to win. I want to get a ring. I want to make my own legacy. I don't want to just be like a Bradley Beal or something like that. I want to be able to like win tournaments, win championships. You know what I'm saying?
Great comparison. Not going to take a bag and be on a shit team. I love that.
Yeah.
So it's been a super stressful season for Pred and for Seattle, I'm sure, and also for OpTic, right, who have had to deal with the other side of this in some way. He just mentioned not long ago now, been a very stressful year. And we know full well back in January, conversations were being had between Hex and Seattle Surge and both of the organizations to try and do a deal for Pred. The way Hex sees it, they tried to offer money for Pred. Surge said yes, then they realized, hang on a second, maybe we want to try and bump that money up. They went back and forth a few times on this. This is Hex's perspective. Then they said no, effectively, and it wasn't going to happen. They thought there was more to be gained by keeping Pred, and, you know, looking back on the season, maybe they made a mistake on this one, right? But the issue is for Pred, is that looking at OpTic now, who he confirmed at the time, they did everything they could to make it happen, it just wasn't going to work out. He wanted to go, his teammates were happy, okay, they weren't happy for that to happen, but they understood why that was the case, with Scump retiring and all the drama. It was understandable Pred was going to go there, and from a content perspective, Pred is one of the ideal candidates. Of course, there were rumours that Hydra was going to join OpTic last off-season when the whole Dashy and iLLeY thing was going on, and Scump was going to go to the flex with Cammy. At least that was the rumour. And Hydra's, you know, great player, good personality, but, you know, he doesn't maybe have quite the same personality potential that Pred has. So when you're looking from an OpTic perspective, that becomes quite interesting, right? Especially when Pred says that he's looking to lock down for the next 2 to 3 years, you know, maybe a 2+1 type deal where he signs 2 years guaranteed plus 1 optional extension, which is what I think Arcitys maybe signed with the Los Angeles Guerrillas, although that's going to come to an end probably quite quickly depending on what their organisation does in the near future. But yeah, that did imply to me with Pred saying, oh yeah, that I'm looking for the medium term, that maybe it's going to push him more of the OpTic route again. Now, it's understandable that he wants to go there before, he probably wants to go there again. The issue that he runs into though is that OpTic team is doing rather well. Ghosty isn't going anywhere, I'm almost sure of that. Neither are Dashy and Shotzzy. So the only candidate, of course, would be Huke. But in fairness, in the last, this is Major 4, Huke was arguably their best player, at least over the course of Major 4, was ridiculous in Search and Destroy. Okay, Huke is not always slaying out mega hard. He doesn't need to. His chemistry with Shotzzy is great, the chemistry with the entire team is great, and it's going to be a debate until the end of the season whether they should do the Huke for Pred thing, and whenever Huke has a bad series, people are going to say, I'll bring in Pred. Whenever Huke has a great series, people are going to say, keep people who consider Pred, we don't need him, especially if OpTic are winning everything, as they're not, but they could well do at the final couple of events of the season with the way they are presently progressing. So more than likely, Pred wants to go to OpTic as his #1 option. It just seems, you know, based on what he said and given the personality stuff and also given how good OpTic are, I mean, he's made it very clear he wants to win. He doesn't mind taking a pay cut if it means getting a winning team, and I'm sure he looks at that and thinks, yeah, that's a very wise opportunity if it was to arise. He certainly wants to join one of the top teams. We're talking FaZe, we're talking Thieves, we're talking OpTic, and that's pretty much it, to be honest, right? Okay, maybe Toronto you could throw in there, and I think Toronto would be mega nasty with like Pred, CleanX, Scrappy, you know, Insight, maybe something like that would be an incredible team. Okay, maybe they'll have to figure out a few of the dirty work things, but still, that could be an option. But he probably doesn't want to go there if he's looking for that medium term, also from like a view for content, for legacy, and those other things that he touched on. OpTic's the clear choice in a way, but whether they are interested now, that's where the question arises. And also when he's looking in the medium term and we see FaZe having issues, yes, this isn't necessarily directly related to Atlanta Esports Ventures and their Call of Duty team, but it's not too separate. And also Thieves, what's going on there? 100 Thieves have made layoffs lately, so what's the better option for the short term and the medium term? Probably OpTic makes the most sense. But if they don't want him, then what's his second bet? So it's quite interesting that he's looking at it from like a 3-year time span, because by doing so, it puts him with a pretty limited number of teams that he could potentially look at that actually might still be competitive over that time span. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll just leave you with this. I thought it was pretty nice. The 2018 CWL World Championship teams that were there at the time. Some of these orgs are still involved in COD to this day. United obviously recently, you know, collapsed in a way. Luminosity are still here as Surge. Splice is still here as Toronto, of course. OpTic and Envy merged together. But yeah, many of these other legendary organizations have either gone under or they're still around in some form or another. But most of them no longer in Call of Duty. But very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.